Hey, gorgeous souls. Good evening. Let me do some adjusting here. I think that's a little bit better. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. It's Stephanie Levinston, and I'm really, really excited to be here finally to reconnect and give everybody an update. Who is that? Is that Melissa? I'm trying to see. How do I see who's here? I see your beautiful face. And, oh, Linda. Hey, Linda. Mwah. Good to see you, lady. I was thinking about you the other day. So crazy, right? I love when that happens. It happened recently, too. I was thinking of this precious client, and then she contacted me out of nowhere. So, wait, I want to show you guys my new dog. Let's see. I'm going to turn the camera on her. She is so Pacha. Wait, come here. Okay, well, that's not going to work right now. Come here, lady. Come here. Okay, here we go. So, y'all, I had two dogs up until a short while ago. Oh, it's okay. Oh, she's a little nervous. Anyway, this is Pacha. Hey, girl. Okay, baby. See, she's a little bit nervous of this honkin' tripod I have. But boy, is she precious and dear. Come here, mama. It's okay. Come here. So that's Pacha. She is the newest addition to my family. Come here, girl. Come here. I could not love her more. She is absolutely so precious. And those of you who know what I was up to last weekend, I was at a global gathering for the Pachamama Alliance, which is this fantastic organization. Can't say enough good stuff about them, and I'm going to get more and more involved in the work that they do because it resonates so deeply within me. But while I was gone, my husband sent me some photos of a dog that needed a home through one of the rescues. And it was this sweet gal over here. Come here, girl. Come here. Come here. I'm going to see if she'll come back over. And so, what do you name a dog when you are at a Pachamama Alliance gathering? You name her Pacha, and which means earth in indigenous and in Spanish. And she's a mama, actually. She had a litter of puppies. Hey, Val. Mwah! In February. So her puppies have all been adopted, and she was waiting for her forever home. And oh my God, she's just so cute and delicious and sweet and fabulous and a lot of energy because she's not even 2 years old yet. So for those of you out there who've ever brought an animal home, or it's a Quechua word actually. Thank you, Valerie. I can always count on my sister for the origin of words and language. She loves language as much as I do. Stacy Morgan is in the house. Hey, lady. I'm going to tell you all about Stacy Morgan. She's a badass. Anyway, so we adopted this new dog. Love you too, Linda. We adopted this new dog and, of course, named her Pacha, and I call her Pachamama, and they're on my bed right now. Okay. So back to my update. So last weekend I went to Petaluma, California, for this global gathering. And I did not know what I was doing, actually. I didn't know what it was going to be about. I just felt very strong, powerful guidance to go. In fact, I learned about it a few months ago when they first posted about it, and they really didn't say what it was that the global gathering was going to involve. But I heard my guide say, "You're going to that." And I said, "Really? It's in California. Are you sure? I don't even know what they're doing." And my guide said, "Oh yeah, you're going. Welcome, Pachamama." I'll tell Pachamama that you send your love to her, Stacy. So I did. I attended this beautiful gathering of 130 delicious, high vibe souls who feel as lovingly and tenderly and compassionately and protectively towards the earth as I do, if not more so. I knew I would be among those, I would be in community with those who were doing way more than I am at this point in terms of my advocacy work and my Hey, nope. Sorry, they're chewing on each other's faces. That looks really painful. Okay, I'm so glad I'm not a dog. All right, I might have to. Okay, hang on. Nope. Come here. Hey, easy, you. Come here. Nope, Rocket, stop it. Come on, it's okay. You. Oh. Shh, Rocket. No. Oh, God. Sorry, guys. All right, so it's not totally easy having, look at me, all disheveled, having 3 dogs. I'm not going to pretend that it is. This one is having a little bit of a hard time with it. He's the male. And Pacha is very playful and sweet, but she can get kind of a little too much for everybody. Which, you know what I'm doing to help handle this transition and this stress? I actually went to a hypnotherapy session yesterday. It was yesterday, Sunday, Saturday. So you guys, I'm a big fan of hypnotherapy these days because when I find myself in patterns of behavior or thinking that are not serving me, which only occurs like every 3 or 4 seconds throughout the day, I really have been benefiting from going to a hypnotherapy session. I'm going to tell you a quick story, and then I'll get back to the Pachamama Alliance. So, a few weeks ago, a family member of mine who volunteers at the Humane Society found a dog there that she thought we should see, that we might like. She knows what a fan I am of pit bulls, and it was an older pit bull, and she was heartworm positive, and she needed a home. And I wasn't necessarily looking for a new dog, but I always have this soft spot in my heart for especially a female pit bull, because that was my first dog that I had on my own when I was in college, and I just miss her every day. Her name was Bailey. Anyway, so I went out to see this dog at the Humane Society. Her name is Georgia, the dog. And my daughter and I loved her, and we were going to go back and bring my dogs to introduce them to see if they were going to be a good fit. Shh, settle down. Long story short, the day that we were going to go out to, no, sit down. The day that we were loading up in the car to go to the shelter to meet her, and I had a lot of anxious energy from 20 years ago when I had 2 female dogs that got into a fight with each other, and I happened to get caught in the middle of the fight, and my hand was bitten, and this whole thing was like kind of implanted in my brain, this fearful thing of dogs fighting and barking, etc. And so I don't know how I'm going to make this work. Nope. No. This is the most chaotic video ever. So if anyone here is considering getting more than 2 dogs, let's just pay attention here what I'm trying to cope with and deal with. No. Sit down. Okay. Anyhow, we were loading up in the car, and the male dog ran out of the garage and ran up to a dog that was being walked by a little girl. And long story short, there was some snapping and some barking and some really scary sounds and noises. And this little girl, I felt, God bless her, was probably traumatized from that experience because my dog did nip at her dog's ear, and and there was some bleeding. It was awful, actually. And I went into a frozen state when I heard the sound of the dogs barking and snapping at each other, and then I heard the sound of the little girl yelling, and of course she was scared. I couldn't see what was happening, but in my mind, I went back to 20 years ago when I was in the middle of that dog fight with my own 2 dogs, and it just sent me into such a panicked state that I froze and became overwhelmed and had to really rely on my husband to manage the situation. Everything turned out to be okay. No. So sorry. God. Everything turned out to be okay. See, he's here in my lap. But showed me that indeed I was not ready to get another dog until I balanced my own energy and tried to work through and figure out how to integrate a new dog, because I believe our energy is everything. The energy that we bring to any situation is how our animals are going to pick up on and respond to. So they're mirrors for us, our animals. So this chaos that you see going on around me right now, I'm going to have to take some responsibility for that, because in some way I clearly am either nurturing chaos or not managing it as well as I could, or leaving some room and some space for it. I don't know, but I'm going to have to look at that. And I know they're animals too, and this is their natural behavior. Kimberly says, this would be a great Saturday Night Live skit. I know, Kimberly. Kimberly was a producer on Saturday Night Live, so she should know. Yeah, this would be a good skit if I didn't feel so frenzied. I guess that's the point. Okay. So when all of that happened and I had to backtrack and say I'm really not ready to open our home to another dog, given what had happened with my own dog running out. And granted, I also think this was the universe showing me some things too. I told my kids, who were very disappointed because they wanted to adopt this dog, that I was going to take care of what I needed to do on the internal for me, which meant that I was going to go see a friend and colleague of mine who is a hypnotherapist. Because here's what I've learned about hypnotherapy, and I've used it now for a couple different things, and I feel so much more spacious in how I can process through and use, you know, the stories that we circle and circulate through our minds. Hypnotherapy gives your mind other options, gives the brain other options for how you can think about things. It's like a reprogramming, but I'm going to explain the way it works, because I didn't know. I pictured it like this whole, you know, like you see it on the movies where people start clucking like chickens and whatever. But really what it is I spend some time talking to the therapist about what it is I want to work on, what the backstory is to it, so she can really tune into what I tell myself about it. Then she asks me, how do you want to feel? And I tell her, well, I want to feel, in this example with the dogs, I want to feel competent. I want to feel in control. I want to feel confident. I want to feel peaceful. I want to feel whole and integrated when I walk my dogs outside, that I'm not afraid that they're going to bark or snap at another dog or whatever. And so she captures all of that. Come here, girl. Come here. Come here, baby. Come here. I just want you guys to see her face. Is she delicious? And look at what her right ear does. Okay, love you. Isn't she dear? Kathy, that's my new dog. She's not quite as big as yours, but I'm sure they could play together in the big dog area if you're at the dog park anytime soon. Anyhow, back to the hypnotherapy. See, I'm just as scattered as my dogs. Then we go through a process where I get into this really big recliner, which is this is my favorite part of it. She plays music and she sets a scene. She says, where do you want to go today? Meaning, like, what scenery will bring me the most peace? For me, I usually pick someplace by a river or by some clear running water, lots of trees. This time we went to the African savannah because I really wanted to have some giraffes for some reason in the imagery. And she talks me through to a very peaceful place where I can get into a very relaxed state, because that's really what hypnotherapy is like deep relaxation. I am fully aware. If I want to say something, I know what it is I'm going to say. Nothing is a surprise to me. And there's something about accessing the subconscious mind that can happen more easily in that state, which she was able to help me tap into. I thought it was a situation that happened 20 years ago with my two dogs fighting, but actually it was something that happened quite a bit before that when I was very young with a childhood dog. And I did not know that that was a memory that was going to come up. And so when that came up for me to look at, she helped me go through the process of really nurturing the child in me who didn't know what to do in the moments that tension and fear was going on. So we're talking about, I really feel there's this like global kind of more complete healing, for me anyways, that I have benefited from with this hypnotherapy. Then she gives me a recording of her voice walking me through the process and talking me through nurturing that inner child, if that's what's necessary, or in other recordings she will focus on how it is that I'm wanting to feel, and kind of stating it in a narrative as though it's already happened, as though I'm already claiming that. So you are confident and you are feeling, you feel like this, and this is how you compose yourself in your behavior with your dogs, etc. And then I listened to that for a while, and I will tell you, I was very skeptical because I didn't know much about it, but it has supported me in some important ways when I found myself doing more emotional eating and finding like that was taking up so much of my mind space. I tapped into the hypnotherapy for that, and within like a week, I am not kidding, it just wasn't in my mind anymore. I wasn't in this hyper-focused, over-focused thought pattern about it. So I did that, not so that we could get a third dog, but because something was off in a big way for me energetically. Something was creating fear and constriction within me. And I know that we are each responsible for recognizing that within ourselves, and then finding the support that we need to move through that. There is nothing that we are truly limited by other than our own thoughts and stories that we tell ourselves, about certain circumstances or situations. So I really wanted to just put that out there because we have so much available to us in this day and age. There's so much that's known about how the mind and the psyche works, about how we can use spirit connection as a way to support and heal, about what our options are to tap into the deeper places within ourselves to provide that opportunity to heal what we want to. It's really up to us. So that's what I'll say about that. Now, getting back to the Pachamama stuff. So I fly out to Petaluma, and my close girlfriend, my bestie from Seattle, meets me out there. Now, mind you, she knows almost nothing about the Pachamama Alliance because I only have recently gotten involved in it, and she hasn't really looked too much into their work. So we were both kind of new, but she was more new than I was. And what it was these fantastic speakers. There were scientists, there were authors, there were people who are like really in there doing the difficult work of understanding what it will take for us to, I don't want to say reverse global warming, but yeah, essentially to reverse it, to limit it, to put a stop to that, to increase our awareness. And some of these people that were speakers, all of them in fact, that I had heard of, are top of their field. They amassed the most fantastic, amazing group of speakers. And I want to share with you some of what I learned because it was awesome. Okay, so first there's Paul Hawken. And by the way, I'm going to use their names, but I can't speak as completely about their background and skills as I would want to. I need to do more research on them. But Paul Hawken wrote this fantastic book called Drawdown. I have it in my closet. I might go grab it. But this is something amazing that he said. He said when he gives a talk, sometimes he will ask, he was doing a talk in front of an audience of 4,000 people, and they were scientists, I believe. And he asked them, who in this audience believes in global warming? No, who doesn't? Yeah, I think he said, who doesn't believe in global warming? And nobody raised their hands. And he said, come on, there's got to be some people in this, Valerie, there's got to be some people in this audience that don't believe in global warming. And so a few people raised their hands. And he says, great, I'm glad that you raised your hands because nobody in this room should believe in global warming. And we all sat there sort of like, what? What do you mean? What are you getting at? Global warming is very real. The science and the data is there. And he said, the reason you shouldn't believe in global warming is because it is data-based. It's not a belief. It is factual. We have data on it. It is proven. Global warming is proven. So you don't believe in something that is proven, you just accept it as it is. So what a great kind of turn on language, right, and words, and paying attention to that, because I too am guilty of asking or hearing people say, well, they believe in it or they don't believe it. And this is a really brilliant way of looking at it. So none of us should believe in climate science, he says. It's data-based. It's not a belief system. He also said that when you give a talk, you are only as good as your audience. You are no better than your audience, and your ability to connect with your audience has everything to do with how successful your talk is, which for me, as I engage more in the public speaking realm, was really helpful. He said there, I don't know if this is his quote or not, but he said, in God we trust. All others bring data, which I thought was very cute. He also highlighted that climate data is not our data. It is what has been studied through very scientific means. So it's not just what's been posed to others looking for a specific data set. It's actually been shown in, especially in his book. I'm going to go grab his book so you all can see it. Any system that ignores feedback dies. So this is what we need to understand about our current system. Okay, whether you want to call it political, whether you want to call it cultural. If we ignore the feedback that the earth is giving us, that the climate is giving us, then the system, us, we will die. We will die out. It's not for shock value. It's quite literal. He says that global warming is excellent feedback from the system. Let's see. He talked about a few different things regarding regenerative agriculture. This was something that I wrote down that I thought was important to highlight. He said global warming causes climate change. It's not the other way around. So that's something to ponder. What I also love about this dude is he works personally with Byron Katie. So if anyone can say that, I'm a big fan already. Everything is happening for us, not to us. So the feedback that we're getting from the climate system, the earth system, is happening for us. It's happening to awaken us, to open our eyes so that we can choose differently, so that we can awaken our consciousness and work together as a species. He says the earth does know how to heal herself. We just need to get in alignment with her. Does anyone else have chills on that? Let me know if you got chills on that. He said climate change is a given. Climate always changes. Oh, this was something really important that he talked about, the use of language. So we talk about slashing emissions and I wish I could remember some of the other language. We use very intense, kind of violent language when it comes to speaking about how we're going to limit pollution or some of the solutions to global warming. And that has... that type of language has a very dominance and control kind of feel, which is the problem. This is how we got here. Stacy, yes, thank you. I was just going to ask you, can you remember what kind of language? He says that we are using war language in relation to this, that's kind of a mentality we need to shift away from. I think we would agree on that. We have enough true war mentality going around right now that is, in my opinion, completely unnecessary and distracting us from the true real issues, and distracting us and disconnecting us from the true interconnectedness that we have and the responsibility that we have to one another, to support each other, to feel deeply for one another, and to support the reconnection of humanity. Hey, Patty. Good to see you, girl. He says human suffering and being marginalized creates violence and hate, which we know, but these are things that were really important. Now, this next speaker I'm going to talk about, I have to admit that I think Stacy and I have a big crush on, and we're not the only ones, I'm sure. Charles Eisenstein. Oh my, such a brilliant mind. Such beautiful thoughts. Yeah, Stacy's sending hearts. I could listen to him all day, and I'll tell you what is most profound for me in hearing him speak. Oh, he wrote, by the way, a book called The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible. And I'm listening to it now on Audible. I'm not even halfway through it, so I'll tell you more about it once I really get through the book. His talk was so interesting to me. One, yes, because of the content, but also because he would weave in and out of different topics that looked on the outside, or could look on the outside, that it was maybe like an unprepared talk. This is my mind. This is not necessarily what anybody else was saying, but because of the perspective that I have and the perfectionistic approach that I have used for myself for so long, and now when I'm doing more public speaking, especially with my TED Talk, when I made those errors, a big stretch for me to be okay with that. What he did that was so profound to me was that he would stand in front of this group that we were and take plenty of time in silence. And what seemed really clear to me was that his silence was him giving space to receiving, or to channeling, I call it. Information, messages, direction, connection, whatever it was. I didn't ask him what his process is, but he would get very quiet, and the silence would sort of stretch out really beyond the edge of what I would say is comfortable for most of us. But not a single person who was there averted their gaze. We were all just even more rapt, even more at the edge of our seats, waiting for what he was going to say. And it wasn't necessarily that he said anything particularly like profound that anybody maybe had never thought of. There were some sharings in that way. But a lot of what he said just was very deeply resonant. So on many levels, we have had those thoughts before. It's just that, isn't it such a relief to have somebody use language and words in a new and refreshing way that I hadn't considered before? I love that. He said, one of the things he said was, listen to what calls to your core, what calls for your core, and respond to that. So as you are contemplating which organization, which charity, which cause am I called to, where would my skills and abilities be best suited? It's not this outward thing where we have to look and try to find something. Listen to what resonates very deeply within your core. Where do you have that bubble of excitement? Or where do you have that depth of emotional response to something? Your body will tell you through its divine connection where you need to guide yourself, in which direction. He said, the darker it is, the greater the impact. Oh wait, that was right. Okay, different speaker. I only took a couple notes on Charles because I really just wanted to stare at him for the rest of the time and just absorb the beauty of the flow that he brought to his talk. So he said a lot more incredible things. And Stacy, if you think of anything, type it in here that I could share. Then we had this fabulous Reverend named Rev D, they call her. I think Deborah is her name. And she said something really profound, which is the darker it is, meaning our situation in general, the greatest the impact of the smallest amount of light. So when things are looking so bleak and so dark, you think, we think, I think, what is my one flame? What can I, one person, do? It feels overwhelming. It feels like too much. And she said that is the greatest impact we can have, because as dark as things are, as worrisome and challenging as everything is now on the planet, adding my one flame, thank you, Kimberly, adding my one flame and you adding your one flame, that is the greatest impact in the smallest amount of light. She just said, picture yourself in a dark room. You light one match and it illuminates pretty much everything you need to see in the room. And so as we all add our own, of course, we add to that light, but it is no excuses not to bring our light in every moment that we can, because that is the greatest impact. She said, you won't be the only one who sees in the darkness when you strike your match. I thought that was beautiful. She talked about people need to know, and I love this. This was so important for me to hear at this timing. People need to know what you stand for, not what you stand against. And so I'm going to call myself out here, because my personal Facebook page, I am in that page, I am very guilty of reposting things that are upsetting to me, alarming to me. I mean, I try not to use imagery that will be nightmarish, because I am a very sensitive visual empath. And so if I see anything like animal cruelty or human suffering of horrible proportions, which any of it is really horrible, I can't get that image out of my head. It creates emotion for me right now just thinking about it. So I don't repost that kind of stuff. In fact, I block the people who are posting that. But I have been guilty of reposting political stuff in an effort to try to get more people involved in the causes that I feel are important to me. And I'm not going to do that anymore. And I decided through her talk that that does not tell you what I stand for. That tells you what I stand against. And that's not the light that I want to bring. That's kind of like adding to the darkness. So that's a major shift that I had in the moment that she said it, like, oh, duh. I am showing up in a variety of ways, and people do know the causes that I stand for, but when I repost stuff like that and keep the energy in that way flowing, that's what I'm standing against. So why am I adding energy to that? Yes, Kimberly says, wow, light bulb. I know, right? Kimberly, it's, yeah, exactly. Wait, let me review here some of these comments. Stacy says, CE, living planet model, yes, okay, so Charles Eisenstein talked about the living planet model, a new motivation. Love comes when we relate to something as alive. Thank you. Another brilliant statement from him. Yeah, I'm not even going to go further into it because it's so brilliantly said. Asking the earth and the beings on it. Oh, this is something else he said. Asking the earth and the beings on it, what is it like to be you? Was that Charles, Stacy, or was that Rev D? It doesn't matter. It's brilliant regardless. I want to quote it from the right person. What is it like to be you? We make a lot of presumptions, don't we, about other cultures, about other individuals, about certain situations, and we're bringing them through our own filtration system, and oftentimes we've never experienced that which we are filtering and making the presumptions about. So to really connect with others and really go to the place of truth and compassion, asking them, what is it like to be you? Tell me about that. We are hearing more and more now that the healing of the planet is going to come from one conversation at a time. because each conversation that goes to that depth and goes to that place of real connection, open-heartedness, consideration of where others are coming from, and truly making an effort to understand them, that's holding a match into the darkness, lighting it up. Yeah, that was Charles Eisenstein. Yeah. You see why I have a crush on this guy? He's married. I'm not, just kind of being silly, but not really. He's delicious. Then we had a speaker named Brian Swim. I don't know a whole lot about his background except that he is brilliant as well. He says we are reimagining the human, which I find to be quite exciting, because when I do dive into what I stand for, I find so many brilliant social entrepreneurs and people who have the solutions already to pretty much all of our problems. And I think this is what's so profound to me, and was so clear in this gathering, this global gathering. We already have the solutions pretty much to everything we need. Now we need to get behind them, push them forward, gather community, use our voices, cast our ballots all across the board. Brian says, the universe has been reimagining itself since the beginning of time. We are just now joining in. This is an opportunity. These times are an opportunity to reflect on that which created us as a way of understanding who we are. He said we are enveloped in a galactic intelligence that brought us forth. This guy is deep. And I just found this part to be interesting. There are 100 billion stars plus 50 billion planets, and that equals one galaxy. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that. And we have 2 trillion galaxies identified. So what this helps us do is to recognize how vast everything is. It helps me to feel very small, a very significant part, but of that which is so much wider and greater and far-reaching than my brain could ever fathom. He says the universe knows what it's doing. How long will it be until we fulfill our promise of comprehensive compassion? And I love this notion that humanity has made a promise of comprehensive compassion. Now, when do we deliver on that? And what does that look like? Incredible. It's important, he said, to break out of this modern consciousness with its deadlines. We don't know how long it will take us. This is just the truth. He said this is so interesting to me, the average mammalian species, he said, lasts 2.7 million years before it will go extinct. He said, let's just say that humans will last 2.8 million years. Just because we have so many advances in everything. We're living longer and always renovating and improving on things. So he said, we've been here for 20,000 years. So we have lots of time. Lots of time to deliver on this promise we made of comprehensive compassion. I hope that I said that clearly and well, because that just gives me so much hope, and it really puts a frame around this tightness that I feel to hurry up and heal everything and everyone, which isn't possible, of course. But if that is true, and I believe that it is, then we do have time. And that doesn't mean we sit back and relax. I don't feel relaxed about anything global at this point. But it does mean that we can move forward in a step-by-step fashion, continuing to reach out and engage as often as the opportunity presents itself. Because we are moving in that direction. Kimberly says, we can't forget or confuse what is legal with what is moral. Amen, sister. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so what I wrote after he said that statement, I wrote, so relieving to me. Exhale. There is time. So y'all, when I start to get a little frantic and frenetic with my energy and start to run around as though things need to happen yesterday, because I do that, I'm so guilty of doing that, remind me, okay? The average mammalian species lasts 2.7 million years on the earth before going extinct. We've only been, as humanity, here for 20,000 years. We've got time. I love that. Then there was this brilliant guy named Will Grant who talked about social activism. And then after I finish this piece, I'll probably wrap up because that's the end of my notes. And because my dogs finally fell asleep. Hallelujah. Inspiration into action, he talks about. And he talks about how to be effective social activists, which is really important now. He gave a graphic of these 3 circles. So in the middle of the circle is our comfort zone. And that's where obviously we behave in ways and engage in ways that are, just very comfortable and known to us. Then the circle outside of that is our stretch zone, where we might be trying something new or engaging with a new group or a new person in a way or cause in a way that is outside of what we naturally had been inclined to do, outside that little stretch zone. And then the outside of the stretch zone is another circle, which is our panic zone. This is what he said. Donald Trump is a symptom of a nation in panic. Donald Trump is a symptom of a nation in panic. Yeah. What do you think about that, guys? Do you agree with that? Does that hit you where it kind of hits me? He says he's not a leader. He's an outcome of a nation in panic. Kimberly, I just got payment, a PayPal payment from you. Can't wait, lady. Can't wait to work with you. I love that. That is so great and delicious. Okay, so back to this. So if that is true and it resonates as true for me, you can have your own truth, then we can come out, nothing good ever comes from the place of panic. Nothing good ever. We cannot make progress from panic. And we know this, right? We've all experienced panic, and we know that is shutdown mode. That's what I did when my dog ran out the door and chased after this other dog, and I went to panic. I was completely rendered 100% useless and overwhelmed. I even plugged my ears, closed my eyes, and just shut down. So that's what panic looks like for me. What does it look like for you guys? And then what do you need to do to come out of panic and just go back into the stretch? The stretch zone is where the magic happens. It's where we can make forward progress. It's where we create momentum and connections. He said what we do when we're in panic is we either attack others. A lot of that going on right now, right, in politics, attacking others, divisiveness, finger pointing, blame, outing certain groups, yanking rights from groups, women, LGBTQ community, the list goes on. Or in panic, we attack ourselves. It's another option. I've been in that place too, when we get really harsh and critical of ourselves. Or we withdraw or avoid. So there's really nothing in panic that can serve. It will serve us to do what's necessary to tap back into getting into the stretch zone, to come out of panic. He said, showing up and staying engaged and centered with someone in panic. Oh, this is so good. I'm going to start it again. Showing up and good night, Val. Love you. Showing up and staying engaged and centered with someone who is in panic allows Source to move through us. That's incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. Oftentimes, what I find when I'm with someone in panic is that I pull way back. I retreat. I start to feel the intensity of the energy of that person. As an empath, we feel these things very acutely, and I feel like I need to go into self-preservation, self-protection. What he's saying, though, is if we show up, if we stay present, stay engaged, and just ground and center ourselves, which is a much better tool than withdrawing, right? Then Source can move through us to offer healing, to offer compassion, to offer connection, which is necessary to support someone coming out of panic. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to... Yeah, I'm going to close with this. Yeah, that is a holding space. Exactly, Stacy. That's holding space. And I think it's a tricky thing to do for those of us that it can be challenging to do for those of us that are empaths, that feel things even before they start to unfold, even before somebody starts to show the symptoms or behaviors that align with what their energy is truly in that moment, or what their emotional state is. We start to I can start to pick up on that and like prepare for it. Like, whoa, this is feeling a little off. This is not feeling right. What I'm going to practice instead is saying, yeah, this may be feeling off and not quite right, but I am fully capable of grounding, rooting, and centering my energy in this moment and holding space for whatever it is that this person is going through, so that Source can move through me, because that is the nature of the work that I do. Every single time I'm channeling, that is what I'm making myself open to and available to. So I'm going to be working on that. And then he also said, talking about doom puts people into panic, which relates back to what I said about my social media feed, my Facebook feed. When I repost the doom and gloom, guess what I'm nurturing? I'm nurturing panic in others. And so, heck no, am I going to continue doing that. That is not, I'm going to clean that up. That is a goal of mine right now, to really clean that up. And then I will close with saying this, because I thought this was incredibly helpful. He talks about 4 levels of action. First level is you, or me. Okay, the first change that we make is the change to ourself, is with ourself, or our own behavior. It has a ripple effect. So as I'm talking about, I'm going to change the way I cultivate and source and send out the energy of my social media feed, for example. That's the first level of change within me. It has a ripple effect, he says, but it also feels small. And it does. This is why some people are immobilized and not moved to change or shift, because they think, what can I do? It's so small. I'm one person of billions. The next level of action is family and friends. Having the conversations, inviting in the shift with our family and our friends. The third level is community and institutions. So your churches, your synagogues, your schools, any of your institutions, and those that are in your community, your neighborhoods, etc., your friendships. Well, your friends are in level 2. And then the last level, fourth level, is society, culture, and the economy. Now, what he said is, a lot of us are focused on number 1, the self, and number 4, making changes to society, culture, and economy. He said, but the greatest change is not within those 2. The greatest change can be made at 2 and 3, at levels 2 and 3, with your family and friends, and with your community and institutions. And that was really great for me to hear, because it will support me in reaching out more to those institutions. For example, I only recently had an opportunity to share some of my work with, my some of those that are in my community, but outside of the sphere of, like, I'd say my inner circle. And I feel like I can go now recognizing that that is where the most amount of change can shift and happen within institutions and communities. And so I'm taking that forward. I'm going to start spending some time in contemplation about what that might look like, what conversation I might invite, or how maybe to gather a group around to have some of these deeper conversations about what is going on and what our roles are and how we can support one another, and idea sharing, and just really high frequency, high vibrational tools to use our energy more effectively. That's kind of where I'm at. I will say I need to give myself some more time in the integration phase of this. This was really beneficial, actually, to share it with you all in this format, because it's bringing it into another layer for me, dropping down to a deeper level of what it is that I heard and how it is, and what it is that I've learned and how I can utilize it. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to process with you all. And I am sending each of you so much love, so much appreciation. Thank you for bearing witness to me in my journey. It is an honor for me to bear witness to you in yours. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you walking the earth with me at this time. It's a really exciting time to be alive. There is so much good that we are doing, that we can continue to do. And so, big love to all of you. Peace, Kimberly. So much peace. Good night.